if I would have known that people that I considered friends, when they stopped fucking with me, if I would have known it would have hurt me so bad, then it wouldn't have affected me as much as it did. And that's what created that downward spiral. When people just when I couldn't call people anymore, when I couldn't, when I like still to this day, if I hear somebody like a rapper I look up to, if they say my name on a song, like I get like, oh shit, that nigga say my name. Like I still look up to these guys. And these people that I really, really and truly respect. So when you get that disrespect from them, and it hurts you so bad. If I would have been prepared for that, then yeah, I think that would have helped out a lot.
I wake up in the morning with something real strange on my mind. They call me a murderer, and that just sent chills up my spine. Cause I know I'm a beast in the streets, and all this hate that I receive make me wanna eat them up like they my dinner. When all this tension get released, they stay away from me, but I got to let them know that they're fucking with a winner.
What up, guys? Your boy Quake, and I'm back with a brand new episode of What Happened To. But before we get into that, be sure to follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at QuakeGW, and leave a like on this video because it helps it out a lot. And on this episode, I'm going to get you guys involved once again like I did on the 50 Cent Massacre video. I'm going to ask you guys about this artist and what you think. And this artist is a legend by now. He's shifted hip-hop and R&B to something completely different. It's something that we probably wouldn't have seen when he first did it, and a lot of people actually criticized this guy when he first had this sound, even Jay-Z at one point. And as you can tell by the video title, I'm talking about TPain. TPain has been an artist that forever shifted music and hip-hop culture. With his auto-tune sound, eventually everyone started using it. He wasn't the first one to use auto-tune with music, but he brought it back to the mainstream light. And eventually other artists started using auto-tune, and that's when a lot of people started criticizing auto-tune. Jay-Z even delivered a track called Death of Auto-Tune. But ultimately, you can't stop something that is new and innovative and creative when it comes to music. Eventually, people are going to use it and find their own ways to make it something special. But that's not the only thing that made TPain such a great artist. He could actually sing as well. People thought he actually relied on auto-tune to get his vocals off, but that wasn't the case at all. And there was a point in time when he was on literally every single song and every single hook. You couldn't escape him, probably from the years of 2006 till 2009. And at this point, he's looked at as a legend for all of those things. So let's explore his career, how he got into music, his peak, and what he's up to now. TPain was born on September 30th, 1985 in Tallahassee, Florida. TPain's family was heavily into music. One day his father was walking by a street and found a keyboard on the ground. He picked it up, brought it home, and it turned out to be working, so he gave it to TPain at the age of 8. And within weeks, TPain learned how to use the keyboard and play some of his father's favorite songs. And from that, TPain's father started to believe in him a lot more and bought him a bigger and better keyboard and a 4-track recorder, and eventually TPain turned his bedroom into his own studio. TPain would end up getting bullied a lot in school, and whenever he would come home, he would be upset and immediately go in his room and work on music. His father eventually noticed and told him that, hey, he could be homeschooled if he just focuses on his music as well.
That was definitely my solitude, to just lock myself in my room, yank that radio up with the speakers my brother had, and just play those bass lines. I would take my anger out like that. I would just play bass lines to music, and that would calm me down. That would make me forget about everything that happened that day. That's all I was trying to do, just forget.
TPain eventually got better and better and teamed up with a local group and named themselves Nappy Heads. In the early 2000s, they started to find a lot of local success in Florida with their singles Robbery and FLA. But by the time 2004 came, all 7 group members were constantly arguing and had different visions and different plans. TPain says that he wrote most of the hooks and produced most of the beats for the group. And because of that, he felt like every artist in the group should work on their own solo project. So when they started doing that, the group slowly started turning against TPain and his father, and that's eventually when the group ended up splitting up.
We had our hits, man, but I was producing everything. I was, I was basically doing all the hooks, and it turned into a feud within the group. And even with all that going on, we had our success in like a tri-state area, so, it was just a lot. It was a lot to process. And once we started getting bigger and bigger, I was still doing a lot of the hooks and I was still producing everything. So, and my dad was managing the group. So everybody felt like the favoritism was at full blast, and it kind of turned into everybody against me and my dad kind of thing. And, I don't know why we thought we was NWA or some shit. It just wasn't working out. But even after all that, once I got on, after going solo, and I was working on my solo project while I was still in the group, because everybody else was. And nobody saw a problem with that. And I was the one recording their solo albums. And then when I did mine, everybody was like, oh, what, you trying to go solo? I'm like, nigga, that seemed like the point now.
Thank you to Combos for sponsoring today's video. Just like in the Massacre video, I asked you viewers to get involved, and the turnout was amazing. The question that I asked was, what is the first thing that comes to mind when you think of TPain? And these were the 3 best responses.
My thoughts on TPain. He's a dope artist, great writer. And on top of that, he actually honed his singing skills. After all the backlash about him using auto-tune and having to use auto-tune and he can't sing without, go look at some of his acoustic or acapella shit and you'll be blown away.
First thing that comes to my mind is definitely auto-tune. I mean, that motherfucker, like, he was like the king of auto-tune, all the hooks. So that's the first thing I think of.
When it comes to hip-hop, I feel like he's the originator of a auto-tune track. Because then after that, man, till this day, we still hear tracks with full auto-tune on them. And, he made it dope.
I want to continue to get you guys involved in my videos, and the way we can do that is through the app Convos. Convos is a social video app that connects people around the world through face-to-face conversations about current events and various other things. My name on the app is Quake GW, so search it up when you download the app and follow me. I'll constantly be posting videos, and they're also introducing a live streaming feature, which is actually dope. I got to try it out. The app is available on the iOS App Store or Google Play by just searching up Convos, C-O-N-V-O-Z, or click the link in the description below to download it. Thank you for your time, and let's get back to the video. And at that point in his life, TPain didn't have any money and didn't really see any hope in his music. But he ended up hopping on Akon's Locked Up track and remixed his own version called I'm Fucked Up. He ended up shooting a music video for this track, and eventually the track became so hot it started spreading outside of Florida and eventually got to Georgia, where Akon was at. Akon's brother Boo heard TPain's music, loved the I'm Fucked Up remix to Akon's Locked Up, and presented the track to Akon, and Akon loved him as well. Immediately, Akon called TPain, and TPain didn't even believe it was him, so he hung up the phone, but then Akon called again, and then that's when they set up the meeting to meet him at Tallahassee, Florida.
I was going to McDonald's to try to get a job. I got back home, got a call on my rickety cell phone that had like a minute and a half left on it, and it was Akon, and I didn't believe it. And I'm like, who's this for real?
It's Akon. Stop playing my phone, man. He hung up.
And he called back, and he was like, yo, this is really Akon, don't hang up.
He said, oh, yo, it's him for real. Yo, my bad, I didn't mean to hang up on you. But he actually thought that somebody was playing on his phone.
When they did officially sign him, they signed him as a writer and not an artist for Akon's label, Convict Music. They immediately put him to work and had him write a couple of records. Eventually, TPain wrote the song I'm Sprung. He presented to Akon, but Akon did not want the track at all. He said that's too feminine of a track and he doesn't want it for his own album. So TPain decided to record it himself and pushed it in Tallahassee, Florida. and before you know it, it became a huge song there, and the buzz for the single started blowing up.
When Akon saw an interest in me, I started writing stuff for Akon. So I really was supposed to be signed as a writer. I wasn't supposed to be an artist. So I wrote I'm Sprung for Akon.
Wow.
And this was the time around he had Soul Survivor.
Yeah.
With Jeezy. And Soul Survivor was doing so good that Akon legit told me, we don't make songs for girls. So I took the record back and gave it to Felicia Fox in Tallahassee, and she played it on the radio twice, and she was like, this is a fucking smash.
Other labels started becoming interested in signing TPain as an artist and not as a writer. Interscope ended up offering him $900,000. But Akon and his brother Boo were like, do not sign with them. We'll sign you as an artist and we'll give you a great career. So eventually TPain ultimately decided to sign with Akon's label.
Like I said, my dad was my manager, and when I had I'm Sprung blowing up, you know, TJ was taking us around, and TJ was taking us to different clubs and stuff, but, you know, there were different labels involved. Like, Akon was signed to Interscope Records.
Right.
And Interscope Records offered me a $900,000 signing bonus.
Which is crazy.
As a 18-year-old,
what?
That sounds crazy. You know, we went to Atlantic, which was offering $700,000, but everybody was offering all these things for the single.
Wow.
Just for the one record?
Just for the one record. I went to Akon, and Akon said, bro, I got 20 grand and a career. I can guarantee I'll give you 20 grand. I know it's not a lot of money, but I guarantee you're gonna have a career and not just a song. You know, when I went to all these companies, they was like, I love this song. I love this song. What can we do? Can we get another song? Can we do this song? And Akon was like, I love you. I love what you're doing, and I want to make sure you have a long career.
Wow.
And he was the only person talking like that. And I wasn't in it for short money. I was in it trying to. I was trying to get the long play going. So he was the only one talking about it. So I went with him.
So naturally, Akon ended up signing TPain as an artist now too to Convict Music. With the song building a lot of buzz, they finally decided to push it to radios, and it was officially released on August 16th, 2005. And the single was a massive success for TPain. It peaked at number 8 on the Billboard Hot 100 and ended up going platinum. At this point, TPain started becoming a household name, and because of the huge success of the first single, they immediately decided to drop the album. And on December 6, 2005, TPain dropped his debut album called Rappa Turned Sanga. The reason for that title was because TPain used to be a rapper, but decided to now take the R&B singing route to stand out from the people in his neighborhood. The album debuted at number 40 on the Billboard 200 and sold 47,000 copies within the first week. And as of now, the album is gold, which means it sold over 500,000 copies in the United States. Then they decided to push the second single after the album's release. The single was called I'm in Love with a Stripper, and it featured Mike Jones, and it was officially released and pushed to radios on December 13th, 2005. This single ended up doing better than the first one, and it peaked at number 5 on the Billboard Hot 100 and ended up going 3 times platinum. And because of the huge success of the second single, the album actually ended up peaking at number 33 on the Billboard 200, which was better than its debut. Then in 2006, TPain was just touring his debut album and promoting it throughout that whole year. However, this was the birth of TPain appearing on other people's hooks, and in 2006, he appeared on E40's track, You and That, and that song ended up blowing up. It peaked at number 13 on the Billboard Hot 100 and went platinum. And from there, every artist started using TPain on their hooks, and in 2007, because of that, he had an insane year. In 2007 alone, TPain appeared on 12 tracks as a featured artist. On top of that, he dropped his second studio album. Immediately as the year began, on February 20th, he dropped the first single off his new album called Buy You a Drink, featuring Young Jock. And this track would become TPain's biggest hit in his career. It peaked at number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and went on to go 3 times platinum. And just like the last album, they decided after one single, they were ready to release his album. And on June 5th, 2007, TPain dropped his second studio album, Epiphany, and this album was the first album for him to debut at number 1 on the Billboard 200 and sold 171,000 copies within its first week. And I couldn't find any RIAA certifications, but TPain says the album has gone double platinum as of now. And on the same day that the album was released, they decided to push the second single officially, called Bartender featuring Akon. And this track was a massive success for TPain once again. It peaked at number 5 on the Billboard Hot 100 and ended up going platinum. Now I'm going to go over almost all the tracks that he was featured on because some of these were insanely big hits. The first one is Bow Wow, Out of My System with TPain. It peaked at number 22 in the Billboard Hot 100 and ended up going platinum. Then we have R. Kelly, I'm a Flirt with TPain and T.I. It peaked at number 12 on the Billboard Hot 100 and went platinum. Then we have DJ Khaled, I'm So Hood with a bunch of artists, including TPain, of course. It peaked at number 19 on the Billboard Hot 100 and went gold. Then we have Plies, Shawty with TPain. It peaked at number 9 on the Hot 100 and went gold. Then we have Baby Bash with TPain. It peaked at number 7 on the Hot 100 and went 2 times platinum. Then we have Fabulous with TPain on the track Baby Don't Go. It peaked at number 23 on the Hot 100 and ended up going platinum. Then there's Good Life with Kanye West and TPain. It peaked at number 7 on the Billboard Hot 100 and went 2 times platinum, and it won the Grammy for the best rap song. Now, here are the 2 number 1 hits. Chris Brown, Kiss Kiss with TPain. It peaked at number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and went 3 times platinum. And then this is the monster one. Flo Rida and TPain, Low, of course. It peaked at number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100. And as of now, according to TPain, it's gone diamond, which means it sold 10 million singles. But on RIAA, it's only 8 times platinum. So all of that happened all in 2007. 3 number 1 hits, a bunch of platinum plaques. This was at the point where TPain was at his peak, and literally you couldn't escape him on any song.
The first song was I'm So Hood.
I'm So Hood.
Yeah, and I did that and Two Step the same night. So that was,
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
that was pretty cool. I did a lot of songs the same night. Low with Flo Rida and Shawty with Plaza the same night.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Classic. Damn.
When you're on fire, you just keep going. You know?
Usually TPain would take a 2-year break before he would release his next album. But because TPain was on fire, he decided immediately in 2008 to work on his 3rd studio album. And in the summer of 2008, they dropped the first single off the album called Can't Believe It, featuring Lil Wayne. And this track was a huge success for TPain. It peaked at number 7 on the Billboard Hot 100 and ended up going platinum. Then for the first time ever in terms of albums, they decided to push more singles before the album's official release. And on September 23rd, 2008, they dropped the second single, Chopped and Screwed, featuring Ludacris. This track peaked at number 27 on the Billboard Hot 100 and ended up going gold. Then he dropped the 3rd single called Freeze, featuring Chris Brown on October 10th, 2008, and this song peaked at number 38 on the Hot 100. Before releasing the album, TPain decided to release a mixtape, and this was the first time he was doing this as a solo artist. And on October 28th, 2008, he dropped a mixtape called Pre-Rings in preparation for his album. After this, he was finally ready to release his 3rd studio album, titled 3 Rings, on November 11th, 2008. The album debuted at number 4 on the Billboard 200 and sold 167,000 copies within the first week. And as of now, it's sold roughly over 700,000 copies in total in the United States. And of course, TPain killed a lot of features in 2008. Again, he appeared on Lil Mama's Shawty Get Loose track with Chris Brown. That peaked at number 10 on the Billboard Hot 100. He appeared on Rick Ross's The Boss track. That peaked at number 17 on the Hot 100. He appeared on Two Pistols' She Got It track. That peaked at number 24 on the Hot 100. He appeared on Lil Wayne's Got Money track. That peaked at number 10 on the Hot 100. And he appeared on Ludacris's One More Drink, and that peaked at number 24 on the Hot 100. He also appeared on various other tracks, but I'm just naming the ones that performed the best. Then in 2009, things would start to slow down for TPain, and the reason why was because of 2 things. TPain got tired of hearing people using auto-tune and basically running with his sound Everyone sounded the same, he said, and he was frustrated with that, and he felt like everybody was taking his style, and he just didn't want to make music anymore. Another reason why was because Jay-Z came out and it basically claimed the death of autotune. Normally, TPain would schedule to release an album every 2 years or every year, but in this year, he didn't release a single album. He did do a couple features though. He appeared on Jamie Foxx's Blame It track, which peaked at number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100. The track ended up going platinum and actually won them a Grammy for Best R&B Performance. He also appeared on the Lonely Islands track, I'm on a Boat. This track peaked at number 56 on the Hot 100 and went platinum. He appeared on Mano's All the Above, and this is my favorite hook from TPain. He absolutely killed it. That song peaked at number 39 on the Hot 100 and went platinum. He also appeared on Jesse McCartney's Body Language. That peaked at number 35. So he was still doing features, but he didn't release his own music. And then Jay-Z's DOA dropped, The Death of Autotune. TPain initially felt offended by the track and felt like Jay-Z was dissing him. But Jay-Z stated that he was tired of other artists using autotune as a crutch for their music when they can't sing at all. TPain and Kanye West were using it, but he was fine with them two using it because they actually had a melodic sound.
That can't be the reason because, you know, there's at least 8 interviews where I say I'm not talking to TPain, so the logic of it just doesn't apply. So maybe he just, you know, went out there and he said something and he don't, you know, he ain't really all the way mean it, and I'm cool with that. Let's just move on from it. And take that personal because I didn't know. If I knew TPain was coming and I thought he was a fan, that'd be something else. I didn't know he was coming on stage. I just saw an image.
Let me know when you're performing the song. I'm going to go support it. Ebro set it up. Ebro talked to whoever he talked to. Like, ain't nobody just getting on stage with Jay-Z, bro. Right. Like, he ain't just about to walk up and say, I'm going on stage. Once somebody yelled out TPain coming through, everybody split apart and was like, here you go. That's the way you go to do what we already talked about you doing. Okay. So, you know, when I went up there to support it. I don't think anybody told Jay. When I first heard the song, I didn't even pay attention to him saying that. I didn't even know he said my name in the song. I was just so shocked, like, why is it, what the fuck, man? So, but, you know, once I sat down to listen to it, I was like, oh, he's talking about rappers. Okay.
The funny thing is, though, TPain says he decided to initially take a break even before Jay-Z released that track. He felt like he was oversaturating himself, doing a bunch of features on other people's tracks.
And the crazy thing was I was on so much music. At that point, we was already planning on fucking, like, stopping. I was going to disappear for a while. So I really started getting oversaturated. Right. And it turned into this whole TPain is on too much shit. Radio stations complaining, they pulling my records off because, you know, as you know, like in radio stations, they got the separator joint to where they make sure they don't play too much of an artist right after each other. Right. But if my name is on every song, then the fucking machine is shutting down. Right. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like the actual machine is just shutting down and they're not able to not play me back to back. I felt like, you know, when I came out in the game, I was using auto-tune and I was doing things like that in order to make myself sound different. Yeah. And then when everybody else started using it, it kind of made me sound the same again. So I started, you know, and it's a bad thing to do, but I started telling myself that I was doing this for nothing. And I was never gonna be as big as I wanted to be because everybody else was just copying me and then get as big as me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, it was so many at one time. Yeah. It was hard to pick. I mean, even from since introduction, since the Snoop for real? When that happened, I was like, well, that's all right. There you go. That's it.
At this point, literally every artist was using autotune. Kanye West even admitted that TPain's first album was the inspiration for his 808s and Heartbreaks album. So TPain's influence around this time was something that no one could deny. So TPain felt like he did his job. He won Grammys, got #1 songs, sold a bunch of records. He officially felt like he wanted to spend more time with his family and not focus on the music anymore. So once again, in 2010, he did not release an album. He did, however, appear on other artists' tracks as featured guest. He appeared on Pitbull's Hey Baby track, Drop It to the Floor. It peaked at #7 on the Billboard Hot 100. He also appeared on DJ Khaled's All I Do Is Win. It peaked at #24 on the Billboard Hot 100 and went 3 times platinum. And this is a song that Barack Obama actually walked out to which was crazy for T-Pain. He also appeared on Nelly's Move That Body with Akon. That peaked at number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100. Then in 2011, T-Pain was finally gearing up to drop his 4th studio album, but he started facing issues with his label. Initially, the album was supposed to come out in 2009 and was titled Uber. He then released various singles, but they didn't perform well. The first initial single was supposed to be Take Your Shirt Off in 2009. This track only peaked at number 80 on the Hot 100, so then they didn't use that single. Then they decided to go with a different single in 2010 called Reverse Cowgirl featuring Young Jeezy. This ended up only reaching number 75 on the Hot 100, so once again they scrapped that. Then in 2011, he started to promote his actual album and titled it Revolver. They decided to push the first single on March 22nd, 2011. The track was called Best Love Song featuring Chris Brown. This track ended up peaking at number 33 on the Billboard Hot 100. This performance wasn't the type of performance that T-Pain was used to when it comes to his lead singles. So in order to promote his album, he decided to release a pre-mixtape for that album, and on May 11, 2011, he dropped the pre-Revolver mixtape. Then quite a few months went by with T-Pain releasing no new music. Then finally on September 27th, 2011, he dropped the second single off the album called 5 O'Clock featuring Wiz Khalifa and Lily Allen. And this track would end up performing very well for T-Pain. It peaked at number 10 on the Billboard Hot 100, which was good, but T-Pain was still having issues behind the scenes with his label. What ultimately ended up happening was a bunch of labels started merging together to form a new label, RCA Records. T-Pain revealed that this caused a lot of problems for the album's release, and that's why it was such a subpar release. But despite that, T-Pain's 4th studio album, Revolver, was officially released on December 6th, 2011. The album debuted at number 28 on the Billboard 200 with just 35,000 copies sold within its first week, but as of now, it's sold well over 200,000 copies.
Revolver did bad because I don't know if y'all noticed, like all the labels like just did a merger, like all of them just came together. So I was signed to Jive, and then out of nowhere, nobody said anything. Like a week into the Revolver album, I was signed to RCA, and nobody told me. And the reason that the Revolver did so bad is because nobody cared. Nobody in the label cared about that album. It was basically RCA, they got 4 labels worth of artists and 1 label worth of staff. So when you got these people that's supposed to be going to the radio and pushing singles, they'll have 10 fucking singles to push to the radio station. If they get 1 on the radio, they did their job. And I invited everybody to my house and, you know, all this other shit and tried to, like, have a listening party just at my house. Invited everybody to my house, had drinks. President of the label came through. I'm like, okay, cool. I got drunk. Fucking went off on everybody. I'm trying to hide it. You know, you do the corporate thing, like I really hate you, but I'm gonna smile right now because that's that you pay me. Yeah. So and I went off on them because they were listening to my album, but nobody was listening. Everybody was just talking. Everybody was just talking all over the music. Like you could not even hear the fucking music anymore. So many people were just talking. So I'm like, listen, I know y'all don't do this shit to nobody else. Because obviously y'all still putting out records for everybody else and y'all ain't doing this shit. So I blacked out. I know that after that, everybody at the label is like, well, fuck T-Pain then. We that's just what happens. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, and I don't blame them. You know what I'm saying? I talk to them that kind of way, and then I expect them to, you know, advance some money for me for a single.
T-Pain would then take another long hiatus from actually releasing another studio album, but in between then, he would release a couple of mixtapes. In 2012, on September 30th, he dropped a new mixtape called Stoic, and this was the initial album title that he had for his 5th album, but it never ended up panning out that way. Then he took a full 3-year hiatus from releasing any mixtapes or album, and there was a few reasons for this. One was because he wanted to spend more time with his family and actually be there for his kids and not just be touring and making music and focusing on hits. Then he also said he needed to focus on his finances a lot more because he was spending a lot of money. At one point, he ended up buying a 1.2 million Bugatti and it broke. He bought a couple properties. He blew through $40 million all the way till $0. And he realized that this spending habit was very bad and he had to get this correct before he started making more money. He said he would spend money on just ridiculous things for no reasons. At one point, he owned 30 cars and he bought a $400,000 chain that said big ass chain on it. And although it made headlines for him, he ended up losing the chain eventually. So that's $400,000 down the drain, and various other stupid purchases like that is how he blew through his $40 million.
At that point, that's when I was running out of money. You know what I'm saying? And that's when my accountant was like, dude, you just bought a Bugatti. You're like out of money. And I was like, no, I'm not. I got this house I want to get. I got this other house for my assistants and, you know, all my runners and my producers and stuff. So we bought a house after that, and we just started going crazy with the money. I wasn't paying attention to it. As you know, I thought if I didn't have access to my own accounts, that I wouldn't have to look at it. So, you know what I'm saying? It was bad business choices. I had to borrow money to get my kids Burger King.
What's the most you ever had in the bank at one time?
40 million.
Jesus Christ, TPain. How do you have a hairline? My God.
Yeah,
$40 million to zero?
Yeah.
And it was just all bad spending? No bad investments? Like, what was it?
It was a lot of bad investments.
On top of that, TPain felt like the music industry was a very fake place. Around the time of 2007 till 2009, where he did all those features for a lot of artists, he did not charge them at all. He just expected them to return the favor to him when it came to making his own album. But that never happened with a lot of artists. The only ones he says that were real were Chris Brown, Lil Wayne, Neo, and a few others.
I was the music Jesus, man. You want to get saved, come to the church of TPain, and I'll slam you a hook on there, and I'll make sure you're good for at least 3 more years. You'll be fine. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, I mean, that's just what happened, man. And I did a lot of that for a lot of people. And, you know, when it was basically my turn to, you know, return the favor, because, you know, and a lot of people, when they hear return the favor, they feel like, oh, you just want them to get back on your song. But a lot of people don't know. Most of those features I did back in 2008 and 9 and 10, I did all of them for free. So I did a lot of stuff for free, and then, you know, nothing was reciprocated. You know what I'm saying? But even if I got somebody to even try to be on the song, they come back and charge. And I'm like, well, remember the... Remember the thing I did? Let's go ahead and not charge me there, bro. And they just wouldn't do it.
Fast forward to 2015, and TPain decided to release a new mixtape for his fans on March 27, 2015, and the mixtape was called The Iron Way. Then in 2016, TPain didn't release a new project at all. He just dropped 2 new singles, Look at Me and Dan Brazilian featuring Lil Yachty, but none of those tracks charted. Then finally in 2017, TPain was ready to deliver his 5th studio album. But before that, he gave fans the long-awaited collab project with him and Lil Wayne, and the project was called T-Wayne. This project was announced back in 2008 when both Lil Wayne and TPain were at the peak of their careers, but they could never release the album due to a bunch of labels getting involved and deciding that they wanted to make money off it, and so on and so forth. So many things happened that finally, after a couple of years in 2017, they dropped the mixtape for free on all streaming platforms, and it featured 8 tracks with Lil Wayne and TPain. After this, he finally got ready to release the album. So he dropped the first single off the album called Goal Line, and it was released on September 28th, 2017. Unfortunately, this track didn't chart anywhere. Then they released the second single called Text to My Ex on November 10th, 2017, and this track also didn't chart anywhere. Then finally, his 5th studio album called Oblivion was released on November 17th, 2017, and we don't have first week sales for this album, but it did peak at number 155 on the Billboard 200. TPain says that he did not like the release of this album and that he just gave them a subpar album to get off his label deal. In the label deal, he was obligated to release 5 albums under Convict Music / Jive Records / RCA, so he delivered this final album under that contract just to get out of the contract because he did not agree with any of the label people about the direction of his music. He didn't even get to choose the singles off his last 2 albums, and even some of the artwork he didn't get to choose. So he was clearly frustrated. He just released the album and finally got out of that contract and went independent.
It was slept on because I kind of wanted it to be slept on.
I heard that. Yeah,
Why?
I heard.
It was
You to get out of a situation.
I had to get out of my situation.
Got you.
And they wouldn't let me get out. Like literally,
You had to drop an album.
I had to drop an album. Like I literally called the president of the label and was like, "Please drop me." And it was like, "No, we have TPain. You think I'm what? You think we're gonna let somebody else get TPain? No, that's not happening." Click. He actually hung up on me. It's pretty cool. That was a boss fucking move, though. What a boss fucking move. Just hang up on artists.
Then in 2018, TPain started to branch out and do other things besides music, like do a lot of television-related things. He appeared on The Masked Singer on Fox and actually won on season 1. And he actually has his own show on Fuse called TPain's School of Business, which is actually pretty dope. I encourage you guys to check it out. A couple episodes are on YouTube. Also that year, he released 2 mixtapes of a bunch of old tracks that he had on his computer that he felt like he wanted to release. So on August 17, 2018, he dropped a mixtape called Everything Must Go Volume 1. Then on October 10th, 2018, he dropped the Volume 2 of that mixtape. Then in 2019, he geared up to drop his 6th studio album, and this would be the first album he released independently with no label backing him. The first single he dropped was in January 23rd of 2019 called Get Your Roll On, featuring Tory Lanez. Although this song didn't chart, it's a very dope track, and I love the music video for it because of all the cars in there, and I'm a fan of cars. So is TPain, so it just makes sense. Go ahead and check it out if you guys haven't. Then on February 27th, 2019, TPain dropped his 6th studio album, One Up. The album peaked at number 115 on the Billboard 200 with no first week sales that I could find. And this project is actually one of his best that I've heard in a long time, maybe because he actually now has freedom control over his music and how he wants to execute it. One of my favorite tracks on here is the one with Lil Wayne called Goat Talk. TPain also did a joint collab with Tory Lanez on a track called Jerry Sprunger. This track was the remix to TPain's first ever single, I'm Sprung, which was actually very dope, and it peaked at number 44 on the Billboard Hot 100. TPain in 2020 has actually still been releasing music. He dropped a new single on April 24th, 2020 called Wake Up Dead, featuring Chris Brown, which is actually pretty dope. Go ahead and check it out. He also dropped a new single in June of 2020 called Get Up. He's also announced various other ventures he's going into, such as Nappy Boy Radio, which is his own podcast. He has Nappy Boy Gaming, because TPain is actually an avid gamer. He actually goes on Twitch a lot and streams himself gaming. So TPain is active and very busy and still releasing new music. So that's it for this episode of What Happened To. What do you guys think of TPain? Leave a comment below. I feel like he is the revolutionary artist that came in with autotune and changed everything. I mean, nowadays, you cannot really escape autotune. 90% of hip-hop artists are using it in their music. Nowadays, if you're not using autotune, you're unique. If you are, you're kind of blending in with everybody, which is crazy because when he first came out, him using autotune was the unique thing. And after doing a lot of research and watching a bunch of interviews with TPain, he's a very, very funny individual. I feel like he needs to be on TV a lot more. Even though the music is great, I feel like his transition to TV would be something very, very dope if executed properly. I love that show on Fuse that he has and the way he did The Masked Singer, but he can do a lot more. So yeah, leave a comment below. Let me know your thoughts on TPain. If you like him, like his music, what he's done for hip hop, and much more, I'll check him out. That's it for today's video. If you guys want to support this channel further, you can do so at patreon.com/diverse mentality. For just $1 a month or more, you can help support this channel further. A link is in the description below. Like, comment, share, and definitely subscribe. I do videos like this daily on hip-hop news and much more, so definitely subscribe. Follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at QuakeGW. Like us on Facebook, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.